My stock of all sorts has been much neglected during my 8 years' residence from home. By procuring, if I am able, good rams, and giving the necessary attention, I hope to get them up again, for they are with me the part of my stock in which I most delight.
I bet you didn't know that sheep were George's favorite farm animal. When he got home from the Revolutionary War, he was very disappointed that his farms were not being run to his high standards. He worked hard to improve his farm and his animals, focusing particularly on his sheep, or white cattle, as he sometimes called them. We don't know what kind of sheep George had, but these rare Hog Island sheep probably look a lot like they did.
I cannot help thinking that increasing and improving our breed of sheep would be one of the most profitable speculations we could undertake, for the multiplication of useful animals is a common blessing to mankind.
George was simply amazed that other American farmers didn't raise sheep too. Actually, he was not very impressed with American farming in general. He wrote letters to people around the world about how to make it better, including to the celebrated British agriculturalist Arthur Young.
You seem surprised, and no wonder, to hear that many of our farmers, if they can be so called, cultivate much ground for little profit. None push the raising of sheep to the extent they might and ought to do. The fact is, we have, in a manner, everything to learn that respects neat and profitable husbandry.
Is the export of wool well established as well as allowed? Have you well chosen rams? All these things are of importance because they bear directly on the point where you seem to most want exertion and improvements, in the culture of grass for pasturage as preparatory to corn.
Arthur's questions show us why George thought it was especially important to raise sheep. Everyone wanted to buy wool and mutton, plus sheep manure and cow manure helped fertilize his fields. Typically, George wanted the highest quality sheep he could find, which meant buying them from England. But that was no walk in the park.
The great impediment is the British statutes. These discourage men of delicacy in the country. Others, less scrupulous, have attempted to import English rams with success, and by this means our flocks in many places are much improved.
These harsh British laws made Arthur furious because they prohibited the export of British sheep or wool. Illegally, Arthur arranged to have wool samples manufactured from the fleece Washington sent him smuggled to America.
It would give me pain if I thought your Excellency had the least idea of my neglecting your wool. It resembles very much our best Kentish and Northampton wool.
George was very proud of this report and liked to brag in his later letters that his sheep were just as good as English ones. Despite being swamped with all of this work of being president and managing his farms, George still found time for a little scientific fun by suggesting that James Athill, Speaker of the Assembly of Antigua, do a little experiment with his sheep.
Although it is a fact well ascertained, I believe, that the woolly tribe of animals change their coating whenever they are removed to hot climates, yet as it may be curious to observe the gradation and time required for this process of nature, I have taken the liberty of sending you a ram and 5 ewes.
George was a famous general and the first president of a new country, but more than anything else, he wanted to be at home at his farm, counting his sheep. He kept detailed records in his diaries of how many animals he had. Well, except for the pigs, but that's a whole nother story.